Oh, well, hello there. Wade here. Let's do a little planning trip coming up. So anyway, what I want to talk about today is how to train your girlfriend. And I mean that in the least misogynistic way possible. I asked my girlfriend, she said it was all right to use this title. And really what I want to get into is, as it's 2017, 2007 was the start of me teaching, and I taught dating advice, how to approach, how to meet women, how to take them home, and that initial stage of the relationship. But as I've gotten older, ripe old age of 34 here, and a lot of my clients who have come with me for 3, 5, 8, 10 years, I've had clients the whole length of the way here as they're getting older too, is it's less about how to meet a girl and being single, and it's much more about how do I keep this relationship going? How do I make sure that we're growing together? She's supportive of me. What does it even mean to be in a relationship? What's the definition of that? And on top of that, the complexities that go into the unique situation of being an entrepreneur or a high-level executive, and how that leads to other challenges when it comes to communication and how you balance the relationship with everything else. First off, what is a relationship? Now, the definition, it's a nominalization here, so it's different for every single person. So you need to figure out what that is for you. And the clarity that comes in there, it's the law of attraction and action. The more clear you can get on what you want out of a relationship, the more you can make that happen. When it comes to persuasion, when it comes to social skills and communication, all things we're going to talk about in more detail in a second here, the first step is figuring out what you want out of the relationship. So for me, my definition, or just the overall vibe of what I want in a relationship, comes down to, the biggest one is where 1 + 1 = 100. Where it's not just me, you together, and we're twice as good. It's we're 20, 30, 50, 100x better because of us being together. And for me, that's about being in a supportive relationship where we're helping each other out. For me, we're each other's best friends. She's my business partner. Everything I'm doing in the business, I'm bouncing my ideas off of her. And then, I'll be on a coaching call and all of a sudden she'll say, I hope your coaching call goes really well. Or if I have a big win, we celebrate that together. She's off buying champagne because she knows all the work that went into it. And we have a bad time. We have a bad time together. And she, more than anyone else, is there to console me because she understands the situation. And so for me, it's all about that ultimate level of visibility and transparency that comes when she knows you better than anyone else. And so I guess a big part of that, if that's what you want out of a relationship, and I think you should if you want a healthy relationship, is you can't be playing the games. You can't have the competitive nature, issues like jealousy, things like that. It's something back when you're single and you're trying to meet a girl and you're trying to have the chase going on there. Jealousy is great before you're in a relationship, during that initial courtship period, but afterwards, it only leads to negativity. It only leads to, it's just one of the worst vibes you could possibly have. So you want to really, if you're in a relationship, do everything you can to not create those jealous vibes and make sure that you're not off. Because really what happens is you think, okay, the way I got her in the first place is she got all jealous because I was talking to all these other girls. I have high social value, and the only way that I could really show that I was worthy was have the social proof of other girls around and tell the stories. But once you're in a relationship, that's the worst thing because it leads to her just worrying about the situation and not able to have it be as transparent as possible. And beyond just the clarity of the relationship, you also have the other person in the relationship. You need to get crystal clear there as well. Again, it's that law of attraction and action comes when you have the crystal clear clarity. So create a list. I don't care if you're in a relationship or not. What do you want that other person to be? What do you want them to, what sort of personality traits beyond just looks? Every guy just says, I just want her to be hot. What else? Have an abundance mindset. Look beyond that because you're never gonna be happy if she's just hot and has nothing else going on for her. So if I think for myself, it'd be things like, that's like kind of the baseline there. Is she attractive enough? On top of that, for me, it's intelligence. Is she able to kind of keep a conversation going? Can I throw her off to my guy friends and she can handle herself? Can she handle a drink? She's got to be able to drink a few drinks there because I'm out doing that with my buddies. She can't be off just kind of judging me and things like that, And so I have a list of probably a half a dozen things that are obligatory for me to be in a relationship. And lo and behold, I have that in my current relationship. Some of that, when I was initially we were building that relationship up, they were somewhat in front of me, but because I had created a list in the past, I knew that, check these things work, check these things work. And also in the initial courtship, it's great to have that screening vibe, screening frame. It's much more you are the prize from the start there. But the reason this is really important is that early on in the relationship, if you're thinking that, okay, I want it to be a certain way here, you have to be it from the start. So a great example of this would be, I have guys all the time ask, because my girlfriend, she's reading like, Atlas Shrugged, Fountainhead, Eckhart Tolle, just all the 4-Hour Work Week, the classic self-development books. And I have guys all the time, friends of mine, as well as clients, say, how do I get my girlfriend to read these books? And the thing is, you can't. If they don't like self-development from the start, you can't force them or you can't change them to be like that. And so if you're watching a video like this, I'm assuming self-development, it's important to you. You need to have that be in that list of things that you're looking for in someone else, because what happens is you keep growing, you keep evolving emotionally, your emotional intelligence goes up, you're working on yourself, you're constantly growing, and if the other person isn't, all of a sudden at some point you're just gonna move forward. You're gonna be a different person. And I'm sure you've had the experience where every week, every month, and especially every year, you're changing, you're evolving. If the other person isn't, you're literally becoming two different people. And so you need to grow together, and that's what comes into, again, that supportive team. You're on the same team, and finding someone from the start that has those qualities that you're looking for. Another big one that I haven't really heard talk about anywhere, and it's one of the most important things when a client of mine is having issues, is we'll get into the parental situations. And what I mean by this is first looking at what your parents were like, as well as looking what her parents were like. And if I was single again, this would be one of the first sort of, when I'm like, hey, maybe I could make this girl my girlfriend, or maybe I could get it more serious. One of the first things I would do is look at the relationship that her parents had. And if it was, because basically her paradigm for what love is and the way that you convey love in your significant other is identical, or maybe the exact opposite, but most likely identical to what the parents' relationship was. And so I had a client, he had a girlfriend who her parents were, it was kind of like that movie Cruel Intentions, where it was like who could one-up each other, and they were constantly, it was this internal sort of mind game struggle going on there. And so she was unknowingly or kind of subconsciously doing the same thing in his relationship, where he kind of came from a background like I had, where my parents, they were each other's first kiss. They met when they were 14 and they're still together 30 years later. And so I'm just thinking like, love, like we're on the same team here, like they're like each other's best friends. And so I just assume that's how everyone thinks a relationship should be. And that's not the case. We learn that at a very early age from our parents. And so a lot of times the conflicts you might be having are, hey, you're really butting heads there because you just don't understand what love is differently. And so through that doesn't mean drop her if she doesn't have the same type of parents that you have, but understand, okay, how can we work through this? How can we, when we're communicating here, making sure that you're not taking things out of context, or you're not mind reading, or you're not looking at it from a different situation there. And again, it comes into another thing that you want to screen for in that initial stage. Another trait that's very important for me and for a lot of guys is the fact that business is number one. My business is my baby. It's the most important thing to me. And this gets into setting certain precedents, because I need to make sure that the girl that I'm with is comfortable with that. She's cool with it. I don't get sort of guilt trips that I'm working too much on the business. And so this is something that you need to set precedents at the very start of the relationship. And so the longer you go, the harder it is to change some of these things. And so I used to have guys back when I was, helping with single guys, teaching dating advice, stuff like that. You'd always hear things like, there's always these sort of, like the Hugh Hefner sort of relationship where you have polygamy and you have multiple girlfriends and that sort of thing. And guys would ask, how do you set that up with your girlfriend? And I'd ask them how long they've been with their girlfriend. And they'd say 3 years. I said, you can't, dude. You can't just wait 3 years in and then say, oh, hey, now we're going to have an open relationship. It doesn't work that way. If you started off that way, sometimes, like I said, either she's going to be into it from the start or not, and you screen that out because that's a trait that you're looking for. For me, one of the big ones is, one, I need to be able to take trips with the guys and not have her be jealous if I'm off doing a trip with the guys. So that's something that very early on, I did some trips to see if my girlfriend would be cool with that. But the other one was, I was so focused on the business. I'm working 10, 12 hours a day. And very quickly, she kind of was like, people just test the water. It's human nature of saying, hey, you're spending kind of a lot of time on the business, making sure to set those precedents right away of saying, hey, this is how things are going to be. It's like training a dog. You can't all of a sudden 2, 3 years in, the dog starts shitting on the floor or something. You go, hey, no, quit shitting on the floor. You got to be like, when it's a little puppy there the first time, kind of give it a little kick and put it outside and say, this is where you do that stuff. Setting those precedents from the start. That's why I say it's kind of like training, but I'm saying this in a good way. It's just human nature, animalistic tendencies here. Setting those right precedents. Another really good view of this too, or another aspect of this, is looking at how the relationship was started or how it was created. And so this goes all the way back to the approach. I feel that the approach of the relationship, the first time you guys meet, really is a microcosm of your entire relationship. If you let her kind of put up with some shit at the start, if you're buying her drinks, if she's the one approaching you and moving the relationship forward, then the rest of the relationship, she's going to be the one wearing the pants. So as much as you might not like it that you have to be the man, you have to approach, you have to move it forward, you have to be the leader, if you want that relationship long term, it's not surprising that the relationship that I have of being the man in the relationship comes from the fact that I went up, I talked to her, there was a guy there, I blew the dude out, was the one moving it forward from the very start there, dictating everything from the very beginning. And now we have a relationship that very much she can lean on me and I can be the man there. And it's definitely I'm wearing the pants there and that's the way that she wants it. And so this gets into another aspect, which is polarity. And so this comes straight from David Deida. The book is The Way of the Superior Man. I think every man, as well as woman, I've had a couple clients where I'm like, give this to your girlfriend. They're going to be able to understand you better and understand the dynamics of your relationship better if you understand the masculine and feminine polarity. I really view when it comes to relationships, it's one of the most sort of seen behind the matrix of what's going on in a relationship is understanding this polarity. And so the biggest thing that I could tell you is that 1, read the book if you haven't yet. 2, read it again if you haven't read it recently. And 3, you have to develop that masculine polarity. So what is masculine polarity? It's you're on your path. It's you're on your purpose. You are the man, and you can't make the woman your path or your purpose. Because what happens is you have the feminine side. And so if you want better sexual chemistry, if you want to kind of bring out, like if it's getting boring, it's about the polarity has disappeared. You become roommates. That's where it's just neutral. Like think about a battery here. You want to have a lot of electricity there, you have to have some polarity. So the more masculine you can be, the more on your path and on your purpose you can be, the more it allows her to kind of flower and be the butterfly and just have fun and enjoy life and be indecisive and be all those, the volatility that is beautiful in the femininity aspect of it. That only can happen if she doesn't become the man. If she can't, but if all of a sudden you're being the one who's indecisive and you're falling off your path, it leads to her having to make those decisions and being the decisive one. And so it's really cool to look at it where a lot of times guys are passing off responsibility onto their girl and saying, you know what, the relationship isn't great, or she's probably not the one. A lot of times what you need to do is take the responsibility on yourself and say, okay, the woman really is a mirror of me. And so if I'm not on my path, if I'm not really going for things, a lot of times if she's kind of irritable or she's kind of ornery, it's because you've fallen off of your focus. You've fallen off of your path. So you can really look at her. If you're bought in from the whatever got you into this relationship at the start, if things are going awry a little bit there, a lot of times it's because of you and the things you're falling off of what you should be doing. So don't immediately pass it off as like, oh, she's just, in a bad mood or things like that. A lot of times that's because of things in your own life. The next area where setting precedents are incredibly important, and it's almost cliche, but it's cliche for a reason, is when it comes down to communication. And so this is something, again, very early in the relationship, be the man here and be the one to say, hey, we need to talk about this. Don't be the type of guy who all of a sudden it's a little bit off-putting. You can feel there's something going wrong, the vibes. You can tell she's just having a bad day. Instead of going off and hanging out with your buddies or running and grabbing a drink at the bar and complaining about it, be the one to kind of have the awkward conversation fast to get it over with and clear it up and get the communication happening that way, instead of having to build up to where you get to that, again, it's cliche, where all of a sudden you leave the dirty dish kind of in the sink instead of put it in the dishwasher. And all of a sudden she's like, oh my God, this is why you're never gonna be like, blah, blah, you're so messy. It's like, okay, this has nothing to do with the dirty dish here. There's something way beyond this going on. Be the man, be the one, be the leader here to say, okay, when you feel something's a little bit off in the relationship, call her up, say, hey, come on over, and then sit down on the couch, have the conversation, and get those things cleared up so you can actually do that so she feels comfortable doing that too. Because at the start, no one likes that awkwardness, but the faster you deal with it, the less awkward it is going to be in the long run. And this leads into a couple quick tips for this. One big one that we have in our relationship is that we never fight over text. And rarely do we even do it over the phone. So if a text, all of a sudden I can feel the vibes getting off, I just immediately cut it, get on the phone. And either that or it's just like, hey, let's come over and let's talk about this. Because it's too easy to misinterpret what's going on there. It's too easy, like sarcasm or the vibe and just shortness. You don't want to have that thing happening. So just get in person and talk about it as fast as possible. And so communication, like I said, it's everything. And the more the relationship evolves, the more and more you have to get more and more comfortable being that sort of visibility, transparency in your relationship. And so what if communication is just not working out? What if you just let it go too far? What if you didn't really screen for the right girl, or just all those things are the fact, or you're just trying to figure out if you should or should not stay in the relationship? The way that I always help clients through this decision is I'm not here to tell you either way what's good or bad. And based on the different life stages, some guys that are watching this are 25, some guys are 35. It's different at any different stage of your life, where the relationship is at. And so what I suggest to you is spend 30 days or 60 or 90 days, whatever the number of days fits for you, to really be able to make this decision. If it's like, man, I'm just at my wit's end here, I'll give you 30 days. If you're like, I'm just not really sure, give me 90 days. And what I want you to do is draw the line in the sand of saying, okay, what would be a perfect 10 out of 10 relationship? And what can I do? Not about how she's gonna be. What can I do 10 out of 10 where I'm gonna fully commit for 30, 60, 90 days? And whatever that is, then commit to it. And so after that, then you can say, okay, I did 100% everything I could do, and yet she still didn't change. The relationship didn't turn into what I wanted it to be. Not about her changing, just it didn't turn into certain things. And if that happens, then you can leave and walk away from it, still being sad, still having a lot of time or energy invested into it, but knowing you did the best that you could. And so like an example of this with a client is that he had a girl, he went to the gym all the time. And this is one, like I was talking about before, is the self-development aspect. And so I said to him, it sounds like previously she didn't do a lot of this, so I don't know if this is going to be something that you can get her to change to make it happen here. But I said, okay, for the next 30 days, is that long enough? He's like, yeah, give it 30 days. And so I want you for the next 30 days, when you're going to the gym, ask her to come with you and get it to where she's coming with you. Eat healthy and have her be eating healthy with you. And read and set aside time where the two of you are reading together. And see if that happens fully, and those things are there. Also think about on her side, if she's being a little ornery, if she's, kind of not as vibrant and full of energy as you would like, maybe what could you do to change it where she's having more fun in the relationship too? Maybe you go do a trip together. Maybe once a week you go out to dinner, or once a month you go out to dinner. What could you do for her that, again, this is 10 out of 10. Don't think that, well, she's not giving me that. Why would I change me until she changes? I'm saying you put it all on you. Put the 100% onus on yourself and choose 30, 60, 90 days. And if you do that 10 out of 10, 100% commit, and after that, then things still haven't changed, then most likely the ultimate responsibility is you didn't screen for the right girl. And then you can walk away from that relationship fully knowing that you did the best you can. You put in your all, and it's just not the right woman. So there you have it. Really, it does come down to that law of attraction in action, as always, and the clarity of what you want out of a relationship, what you want that other person to be, what traits do you want them to have, and really getting crystal clear. Don't settle for just anything. Really put it down on paper and go, what would be that ideal? What would be that 10 out of 10? And the universe, opportunities will start popping into your mind. They'll start popping in, and you'll see certain behaviors if you're just starting off a relationship. I'm saying, ooh, maybe I need to set that precedent early on here, because it's not going to lead, if I let this go now, it's not going to lead to the type of relationship that I want. You have to first know what you want before you can create those precedents and you can create that awesome relationship. Don't let things just kind of fall into place. Don't let the reactionary aspect of things. Don't be reactive here. Be proactive, and that's what's going to lead to the perfect relationship. And again, always be evolving. Realize that the longer you're in a relationship, you have to constantly be evolving. Like anything in life, you got to be growing. If you're not growing, you're stagnating. You're going backwards. So how can you continue to take on more in the relationship? Maybe that's moving in. Maybe that's, having a kid. Maybe it's building a business. Whatever it is, thinking of how can I continually be in new situations so that we're constantly growing together in that supportive team relationship. So would love to hear what you have to say about this topic, or if you have any questions about future videos, just put them down below. I'm going to go back to planning my little vacation. As always, enjoy.